Alright guys, TacticalRab back again today. Hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far. Congratulations everyone, it seems we have made it through the worst day in possibly the entirety of Call of Duty Esports history, most certainly for the CDL era. I can't believe what we had to witness today. An embarrassment, a complete embarrassment for the league, its fans, its players, the teams. So many complaints, even middle of the series from players talking about how it didn't matter anymore, just let us split the points and call it a day. Just a tragic day from all accounts effectively. There were some matches that eventually finished, but honestly by the time this video comes out, I'll be sound asleep, and the last series is probably ongoing with further server issues. So look, we survived it, we go through to LAN, but an absolute farce to be honest, and plenty of talking points. Very much intrigued your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoy, subscribe if you're new as always. We've got a couple of series I'll talk about here. We're certainly going to have to save New York versus Los Angeles Thieves for tomorrow morning. Wanted to mention real quick the Boston event, and now that finished up. No Doug, no dub. They end up coming top 4, unfortunately, Doug and the boys, but it is in the end, as expected, the Boston Open champions goes the way of Toronto Academy North America. Scrappy, Hixie, Vickle and Assault. Interesting really, they brought Assault into this team. Some people question the move, but they look pretty much better than Nether. And Scrappy was, I mean honestly, Vickle deserves a lot of credit for his performance here, but Scrappy again, like every single map this guy seems to be going off. Like surely he's got to get a spot next year. So Ravens are actually joking about what would happen before this match today, because if, well of course them and Solaners had the same score, then kind of the tiebreaker for the #1 seed would have been a bit interesting, and they kind of break down the tiebreaker here, the CDL, but of course it turns out that this game would last way longer than expected. Delays amounting to about 3 hours or so. Like the series, the OpTic series finished 3 hours after it was scheduled to. Like it's just so bad. So effectively this has all been caused by server issues. Now this isn't necessarily within the CDL's control, like at least in parts, but they could much better prepare for this. And also like when you're kind of dealt this bad hands, the CDL seem to do like a terrible job of dealing with it, right? So for example, when this series does eventually finish after about 4 hours, you've got to have the OpTic series ready to go. You've got to like be able to make up for some of the delays, like whether that's that, okay, the break between map 2 and 3 doesn't happen anymore in the OpTic series or whatever. You've got to try something, at least have the players in the lobby ready to go so that you can immediately start the game rather than doing 30 minutes of interviews, breakdowns, whatever. Like not even try and make up the time. I don't know, I guess they just want the viewership numbers and the kind of like the watch time figures or whatever for the sponsors, but like it's just not the way to run a stream that looks competent at all. So anyway, Ravens win game 1. Impressive clutch factor from them, and then Ravens also win the search and destroy. So a quick 2-0 for Ravens. The problem of course for them was they were going into a control where they of course never win, and as Ravens say, you know, don't ask them about the third mode. And if they'd have closed this one out, it would have been a 3-0. Maybe we don't really talk too much about the server issues, but after this particular map, for whatever reason, the servers started to be absolutely tragic, right? It was kind of incredible going into at least the map 4 of the series that London so far this stage 0-5 in control, but they'd won all of their hardpoint and search and destroys in quite some time, which is also kind of incredible. But yeah, here we go, as Arcitys says, this delay is terrible, like hammers to it in scrims as well, but Lord, what is going on? So for some reason, like the game wouldn't come back in. They were trying to load into game 4, it didn't happen. Now we're pretty sure there was a patch update that came into the game a few days ago, and since then the servers have been doing this, and this of course, these are the CDL official servers, right? So they effectively have to play on them. The players they were trying to connect, I'm guessing they were trying different servers to try and find a one that the players could actually work on, but it took so long, and some of the really frustrating part is that there's really no communication from the league. They just tell you, oh, you know, we're trying to get them back in the lobby. Like, you know, I don't know, feel like they should have told us something more than that, because the castles have to sit there and fill for about an hour, and then they go to a delay, at which point the delay doesn't even say the time, right? Usually they go to a 5-minute delay and say, okay, in 5 minutes we'll be back in business. They get rid of the timer, and then it's like, well, yeah, how long are we actually going to be sitting here, right? I tuned out and just watched the Valorant, to be honest. Like, and even as Afro says here, we asked them if we could go back to Cold War, all options on the table here, right? Just because, like, it was taking so long. By the time map 4 happens, we played on Modern Warfare 2, and as Crone says as well, the evolution of the trash icon, right? And of course, Vanguard is, I suppose, mainly at fault here. It's the Vanguard servers or whatever. Like, this game, man, it's just such a, like, it's just so tragic on so many levels. I'm so frustrated watching it at this point. I just want it to disappear, and the servers aren't helping its cause by any means, right? So, I mean, look, I don't know. This, I guess, really is on Activision and the developers, I guess, or whatever, making the servers not work properly, but still, the CDL could handle this stuff way better, I think. And this, like, it just dragged on to be the worst day in COD history, to be honest. It was the worst day to watch by a mile. We're watching Vanguard online with a 3-hour delay. Like, you know, I can't believe it. I guess the delay was only about 2 hours, but with the series going on, and you know how the CDL go, with like everything between the maps and stuff, and then it goes game 5, round 11 or whatever, like it's not exactly helping them. And of course, there was loads of talk about this from the pros, right? And like, they were getting so frustrated, and who can blame them? Retiring after the series at 0, can't retire if the series never enters Octane. 0 is like, okay, I'll just turn terminate my contract straight up. And then Crone says, over or under a 1 hour delay, currently at about 45 minutes. And I was at this point, yeah, it's for sure got to be over. Turns out that's exactly the case. And Sasha's like, look, what about a revolutionary idea here to fix these issues? Just do this on LAN. Don't deal with this online stuff anymore. Big talking point, of course, of earlier today that the online stuff means more than on LAN. And this is the type of stuff that's going on online. Get rid of it, right? But even on LAN, it doesn't necessarily fix the issues because pretty sure these most recent COD games on PC don't have a proper LAN function where you can connect the PCs together and make it work. You still have to play on servers even though the PCs are right next to each other, right? So this actually might not fix the issue for the major, which is a massive concern because it's already late enough here as it is. The major going on with more matches, it's going to be, you know, these days are going to be taking pretty much the entire day. They'll be going to sleep and waking up again an hour later for the start of the next morning's matches based on the way this was going. And there was this that got tweeted out here by Gurge. This is going to be OpTic by the time their game starts. There was even some drama about this because the OpTic guys tweeted this out and didn't give it any credit, which I thought was kind of strange. And then they were like, well, you use the OpTic logo, so it's kind of like our property or something. I don't know. Don't really want to get into the drama on that one, but Scump actually looks really realistic here. And honestly, all the guys look pretty good. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if this is what they were feeling like. And certainly the Los Angeles Thieves and New York guys as well. And even Octane was kind of getting flashbacks to the Modern Warfare days when this exactly happened back in the day. Stay tuned. The servers were terrible back then when they went online anyway. But they've had a good couple of years, you would think, to make them work by planning to do some of this stuff online. And still, this is what we get. So honestly, just so bad. And even as Miles says, or well, as Charles said, actually, Lando's daughter will be able to cast the second series. Lando just gave birth to a baby girl. So congratulations to Lando and I believe his wife now, which is great news, of course. But, you know, still, I thought this is pretty funny. Anyway, eventually we get into the map 4. It finally begins an hour and a bit later. And it looked like Lando were going to walk away with it. They're massive lead. And this was like a crazy situation to watch because Zero had a free pinch. They didn't know he was on the stairs. He could have come up behind them, got a free kill on Neptune, and they would almost certainly have won the game here. He decides to go for some spawn kills, which I kind of like the idea if Neptune doesn't get all the kills. But Neptune gets all the kills, and you know, in an unbelievable fashion, somehow London choke a 241 to 198 lead, and it was so frustrating because I just wanted this series to be over because after this map, it wasn't guaranteed at all the servers were going to work again. This was Zero's play. Like, you could have come up behind them and just shot a couple of guys in the back. He doesn't do it, runs this way instead. Neptune goes massive in the hill, makes the key play, actually getting that 2-piece on Gizmo and Afro, and helps Guerrillas come back and actually win this map in kind of incredible fashion. And then even there was some talking points right here as Zero says, aren't you even game 5 right now? Goes Octane, nah, lobby won't start again. So there we go again. We're stuck in another cycle, waiting for so long, like hours delayed, Paris Legion wins being 2. You can see the type of tweets I'm looking at right here because this was all that was going on. There was no action, and the pros that were so frustrated about this, right? The London guys especially were fuming about it, and this is a massive series for Guerrillas. They needed these 10 points. They needed to try and keep their composure. Mr. B points out actually that since the CDL stream had been live, there was one map every hour. It was about 3 hours, 54 minutes before the final map of the series was played. And I mean, everyone was fuming about this, right? People were trying to prepare for their later matches and they couldn't scrim and warm up because the servers were still like having issues. It was honestly just remarkably bad. And even as Octane says, inside sources at Los Angeles Thieves say they are losing full at the moment. And of course, that Octane being on LA Thieves, right? So, I mean, even as Grown says, you'll be negative that big Hydra by the time your match starts. So just an unbelievably tragic state of affairs. You even see right here, like Zero, as he says, closing on 4 hours in one series. The poor London guys are still sitting in, knowing they've got a good seed anyway for the major, having to play through this game 5. They eventually do play through the game 5, and Guerrillas win it, right? And this is massive, because I feel like if the servers weren't going wrong, London might have been able to just think, okay, let's just close this series out. They don't. They get reverse swept. And this is enormous for LOG, actually, in getting these 10 points. And even there was some talk from Nasty, because he pointed out a screenshot of his team on 50 ping, the other team on about 35. And that 15 ping difference is maybe not massive, but still rather significant. Maybe the server they found in the end wasn't so fair, just so they could find a server they could actually play on, right? Which is, yeah, certainly not a good sign at all. So plenty of talking points about that one. And even as Zero says, so uninterested after all of those delays. Like, yeah, as Crone goes, $300 million league, $68.7 billion company, and then at 99-cent servers. But, you know, credit to Slasher actually turning up in this series, because the 2 series they won against FaZe and here against London, he turned up, dropped the highest kills, least damage, or least deaths, most damage, highest KD in the lobby in both wins. You know, Slasher turns up in the big series. Everyone knows now at this point. But look at this. That reverse sweep of London, it took longer than Rokkr's reverse sweep of Toronto back at Major 5 last year. Just to put things here into perspective. And as Zero says, stuff like that makes me fall out of love with competing, so mentally draining it out of my hands. And yeah, this is the final one I'm just going to look at right here, as Mudog says, sources say Cap's trying to start our warm-up scrim, but the game is broken, so we can't play per sources. So like, I mean, yeah, I think that sums it up. If you guys had the unfortunate circumstance of actually watching those couple of series today, I do feel for you, and I can't wait for more of the same when we get to Major 4 and the servers are still completely broken. Gotta love Call of Duty Vanguard, baby. Let's talk about the final series we shall discuss in this video. Another massive one, right? Because as you said, Guerrillas now to 145. Those 5 points they won from getting the 65 points and winning the Major are actually immense right now, because they move above Rokkr, Thieves, and Mutineers, at least as of the time of this screenshot. Didn't really matter too much for London at the end of the day, but of course that's kind of bad news for New York with those teams picking up more points. Now look, OpTic play Ultra. This was a series where after Guerrillas had won, Guerrillas winning was big though for them, because they of course got to a 2-3 situation with a decent map count. They therefore forced OpTic into a situation where OpTic had to win 3-1 or better based on the tiebreakers not working in OpTic's favour if they were to win this series 3-2, with the strength of schedule and stuff like that. So OpTic come out really strong game 1. Illy was going off, Shotzi especially, he had like 40 plus, he was a menace here on Bakaj. OpTic got 1-0, then they also got up 2-0. I mean, I found this screenshot as well here from Dashi, because like effectively before game 2 even began, there was a server, the server broke, they had to get in the lobby again. It was honestly unbelievable. At this point the game was 3 hours behind schedule, and we've got this going on. Like, I honestly couldn't believe my eyes, and I was like, do I just go to bed, do I just chalk it off? But I decided to stick with it, and we got a pretty entertaining series actually, but a very predictable one. If you guys saw my video earlier today, it pretty much went as expected. Now in fairness, this was pretty incredible. I mean, yeah, nice shots from Dashi in the end with the pistol to take him down, but a 1v3 there from Dashi to keep the dream alive in this game. And from OpTic down 2-5, they come back and win 6-5. I don't really understand OpTic sometimes, because their composure and their mentality is terrible in many situations, but for some reason put them down 5-2, 5-1, they'll start winning a few rounds and then they'll usually lose anyway. But here they don't, right? They bring it back to around 11 and they win it, and that was massive, right? It was like, okay, wow, OpTic have just come from 2-5 down against Ultra to win the map and go up 2-0. They just need to win one of the next 2 to close out the series and get to winners brackets. Surely they're going to do it, right? Surely Ultra are mentally kind of, well, compromised as a result of this. But that's the thing with Ultra, they don't get mentally compromised as OpTic do. OpTic up 2-0, they then go to a Tuscan control where OpTic barely lost, if lost at all, this entire season, but they haven't played it in ages. And Toronto said, okay, we're going to do it, let's give it a go. OpTic are down for it, I suppose, as well, and they get pretty much comprehensively outplayed here. Like, this play from Bance was rather nice, but it really was the first round where OpTic, like, with a decent chance to close out a defense, got outslayed too heavily, lost that defense, and when you lose a defense on Gavuta control, it is done and dusted. Ultra take the game 3, and then again, after a bit of a delay, it goes all the way to a Tuscan hardpoint, where again, Ultra closes one out. And this was crucial for OpTic, right? They needed to win this map if they wanted to go to winners brackets. They don't do it. It goes game 5. And in the game 5 again, CleanX was an absolute monster. Over the course of 2 S&Ds, he had like 29 kills. I think out of the 12 first blood engagements he was in, he was 11 in one of them. So CleanX dominated. But I mean, look, this was pretty much the only round OpTic won, at least early on. Illy clutched a nice little 1v3. So just confused with this OpTic team, man, right? Because their controller's fallen off a cliff. Like, the controller is the key kind of, well, piece of their downfall. But they're also a team where put them like in a 2-0 up advantage situation, lose the control, they're very vulnerable to getting reverse swept. Like, their composure is just not there a lot of the time. For some reason, as I say, when you put them down 5-2, 5-1, they can win a few rounds and string a few together. But in general, they just don't seem to perform in like situations like this where they needed to win one of the next 2 maps against Ultra. They can't do it. Ultra win the next 2. Ultra still, I'm pretty sure, going to be in losers bracket based on the way the tiebreaker is. Does she actually clutch a ridiculous 1v3 to even try and keep their series dreams alive here, like keeping them to 2-5, eventually 3-5, 4-5, but in the end it's Ultra that closes this one out, and well, there we go. Honestly, like, I mean, CleanX dominated it, and Illy was so annoyed he got straight out of the lobby. So I don't know, look, tweet your thoughts in the comment section below, but that does indeed mean, after all is said and done, that OpTic will be starting in the losers bracket in the Major, as I believe will Toronto Ultra, based on their map count. On the whole, Scump and Shotzi really didn't turn up particularly today. They're going to need a massive performance at the Major from the losers bracket start, because if they can't do that one, probably, like, you know, they're not going to build any confidence for the Major. Plenty of talking points in the coming days. We'll talk Thieves New York tomorrow morning. Very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new as always. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you next time.